Good evening. We are back with another episode of the Corner of the Copa. Another beautiful Sunday effort by the Tigers. But how you doing today, Coach?
I'm good. So beginning to recover a little bit from this weekend's tournament. But what a way to end a full week with a finally another mini explosion, if you will, by the Tigers' offense today at home to end up the at least get one of three against Milwaukee this weekend.
Absolutely. A typical Sunday for us, especially for Mr. Rogers. I would love to know what his average is on Sundays, but he tends to get busy on Sundays for whatever reason. But yes, we were able to salvage the series after losing the first two, one by 10-0, and had the media and fans in a frenzy, ready to give up on the season. We played much tougher on Saturday, lost 5-4, and then we won today 10-2 with our trusted ace on the bump. He had another quality start today.
Cy
Um,
Young, Cy
Cy
Young.
Young, definitely a Cy Young candidate. We had an 8-run barrage against Milwaukee. We had some great defense from Riley Green and Vierling that saved some runs. Vierling's was pretty. It started with a diving catch by Green, and then I think he made a catch like on the warning track,
He
glove
robbed
over
him.
the. Yes,
He
it was.
robbed him. Yeah.
But Vierling actually, caught some air on his. So that was really fun to see. But prior to that, we took 2 or 3 from Texas. We had some more heroics from. We had a great performance by Bo Brisky. I think he went like 2-3 innings in one of the games. Rogers had 2 home runs. That's a hometown guy, Texas boy. So he's hit 2 home runs. He's hit three this week because he hit one today,
Yep.
but he
Yep.
hit two in Texas in that game. And Alex McKinstry hit a home run. I joked that he was hearing some footsteps now that Eddie's Leonard and Ryan Kreidler are back in AAA. So he had some hits today as well. But outside of that, we had a debut from Henry Malloy. He homered in the third game. He nearly had a home run on his first at bat, first pitch. But it was cool, because his parents were in attendance. They got to see the home run in person, and he got to switch his number from 36 to 44. Obviously, his name is Henry Malloy, and he was named after Hank Aaron, Henry Aaron. So
Yep.
he was able to get his number. He had to approach one of his coaches and request for that, because one of his coaches has been wearing that 44 number, but they were able to barter something and could convince them that would be a good number for him. But just good to see him. He started slow thus far. I think he's hitting one something, but he's having quality at bats. He's hitting the ball hard. He's taking some pitches. One thing that we knew going into that is that he's very disciplined at the plate, which is obviously the approach that the Tigers organization wants. He's already walked 4 times, and Baez has walked 6 times the entire year. So just in 5 games, he's almost matched him walk wise. But yeah, he's definitely he's definitely not going to expand the strike zone, and he's got some power. He's had a near home run, and he didn't hit a cheap one the other day. So good to see him up, getting the opportunity to play. But yeah, and what else have you seen?
Yeah, no, the Texas series was impressive. I mean, it was a difficult week in terms of the opponents they had. Texas obviously, as far as they went last year, the roster's still good, and we split, I believe, what the 4-game series here, Comerica, I believe, what about in May or late April, and now we took 2 or 3 in Texas, which is not easy to do, especially down there in the Texas heat. Even though it's early June, it's still really warm down there compared to here.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, that's a good call on Bo. Game one, he pitched a few innings and ended up earning his first career win back
Hmm.
on Monday. Flaherty taking the win. Game two, obviously, they lost the rubber match, if you will, to our former starting pitcher Urena,
Yeah.
who actually ended up pitching a whale of a game. A guy who probably in the tail end of his career, I think was really a stud when he came up with the Marlins, I believe originally. Obviously, we had him for a little bit a few years ago, but like you said, a couple things here and there. I mean, look, they lost 5-4 yesterday, and I was looking at the box scores, some other stuff and numbers and whatnot, and it's just like, you know, again, error, 2 errors. Another one by Colt Keith, which is frustrating to say the least, but it's we talk about probably the last 4 episodes. Their errors are starting to decline in terms of frequency, but their impact is just as damning, if you will. Every time I feel like they have an error, it leads directly to a run, or at least the next batter then makes them pay, if you will, as the verbiage goes in the game. But it was an okay week, right around 500, pretty much. They're still close in the wild card hunt, but same time too, we need to start making some ground here. Otherwise, if not, I don't know how confident the front office will be in terms of trying to position themselves to make a trade or two before the deadline to be, we'll call it, lukewarm buyers.
Absolutely, and we're definitely going to get to a little bit of trade talk. But let's get to this first break before we talk injuries and roster moves. Actually, to just talk about a few other things going on. Malloy actually got an opportunity to make his first defensive. Obviously, he's playing a lot of DH right
Yep.
now. He was able to make his first defensive, put out, and I think that was due to Akil Baddoo and the Colt Keith
Oh,
injury.
yes, yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we got a chance to see what he looked like out there. That's obviously not his forte is defense, but he basically talked about because it was it
And he
wasn't
played right field, right? Or left?
left.
Left? Okay.
Badu was in right, but I think they might have moved things around.
Right.
That could be inaccurate, but
Either
yeah.
way, corner spot, either way.
Right, yeah, definitely corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But yeah, he's still getting adjusted to that upper deck and how that presents. Obviously, the Mud Hen Stadium, doesn't have all that real estate there, so there's an adjustment to be made there. But he did make a pretty good throw to the cutoff Baez, and they nearly were able to throw somebody out. So but yeah, gonna be a learning experience for him because I think he's a natural third baseman, if I'm not mistaken. But it's looked like they're gonna give him as many opportunities as he can and as he can handle as we continue to try to combat injuries and stuff like that. Outside of that, Reese Olson got shelled pretty bad on Friday. That was the 10-0 game on Friday. Rare occurrence for him, obviously, and it's he's not going to be perfect every time, but it definitely occurred. I think did Scuba lose this week? No,
No.
he didn't lose this week.
No. Yeah. I don't know if he might be wrong. I don't think he's lost at all.
He's lost one.
One.
He's
Okay,
lost
one. I was gonna say if not none, one. But
Yeah,
I gotta jump in there on that comment you made though. Like I was watching the box score on that and the game cast for that game, and I was just sitting there thinking, why is no one coming in from the bullpen right now when he was just he went out there for the 4th inning on Friday, but I mean through 3 innings he had almost 80 pitches, what 6 or 7 runs total, not necessarily earned runs, but in total he'd given up 6 or 7 at that point.
right.
I'm thinking my thought process is you just had an off day yesterday. You have an off day upcoming Tuesday. So I don't understand why you're leaving your starter who's received 0 to next to little run support out there to just continue to get shelled.
Yeah,
It could. Weird thing is, it could have been worse. It really could have, but I felt like for a guy who had been, and we talked about this maybe 2 weeks ago, if he had had a lot of the run support that Scooble has had, this guy would be right next to him or right behind him in terms of 1A, 1B, or 1 and 2. Cy Young talk, wins and losses aside, but unfortunately, they do matter to voters. But I didn't understand that, so didn't mean to take that over
Jeez.
as we live in Automation Alley.
It's like I'm in the garage, like I'm right in the pit row right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, just this past week's Grand Prix downtown. Yeah, or
Right.
F1, one of the two. But yeah, it flummoxed me a little bit because this guy is an integral part of your rotation, and and we'll talk about it later in a little more detail. But I thought that was the wrong move to put him back out there in the fourth. You didn't need him to eat innings. You had a fresh bullpen. It was the first game after a day off, but I digress.
Yeah, absolutely. And Wenzel Perez has kind of struggled lately. I think he had dropped down to like 240 something. It's back up to 252, well, up to 252
Yeah.
after, everybody hit today. So everybody's average jumped a little bit. But
Yep.
but yeah, it's he's kind of coming back to life. Yet and still, I saw a graphic where they were comparing him and Langford, the guy that we
Yep.
controversially didn't draft, but pretty much all of his numbers are still better than Langford's.
And
Well,
let's be fair too. Wyatt Langford's got the World Series lineup around him.
yeah, yeah,
He's got
that
a guy in Marcus Simeon who's arguably a great leadoff hitter, consistent. Coaching staff that's been there, done that. No offense to Hinch, but asterisk. Um,
right.
and versus Perez, who was a call up amongst a handful of other youthful talent, who's trying to find their way and navigate. So I did see that graphic, but at
Did
the
you see
same
it? Okay.
time, I don't think that's a fair. I mean, yeah, numbers are numbers. Sure, they're black and white. There's no gray area, but at the same time, too, he's in a much low pressure situation compared to Perez, who gets called up, and as we know, call ups, you know, produce or go down. It's kind of the lay of the lamb, if you will.
But did you understand when I said that Perez's numbers are all better than his though on
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay. I was gonna
yeah.
say yeah, because in
He's
spite
been
of
on a
the
slide. Yeah,
pressure, yeah,
yeah.
in spite of the fact that he has slid, yeah, the only stat that Langford is just tied at is RBIs with 15, and that was, I mean, I think Perez could have
And
possibly.
Wyatt was I don't know. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but he may have been. I don't know if he broke camp with the team, but he was up way earlier
He
than
was up when the
Perez.
Tigers played him early in the year, so I
Yes.
think he might have broke camp with them. But yeah,
Yeah.
hey, well, it looks
So
like
take that
Wenzel.
into consideration when you're talking numbers. Yeah.
Right. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I guess Perez played in 4 more games, but more
Yeah.
hits, more homers, more stolen bases, higher batting average, all the way across. But let's get into injuries and roster moves. What do we have today?
So, yeah, we had a flurry going back to the beginning of the week. Back on the third, we saw that Buddy Kent. I mean, it was a flurry of moves with Spencer being demoted and some other, exchanges and not necessarily demotions but options down. So Buddy Kennedy was originally optioned down, or actually he was DFA'd in the third. And then 4 days later, they finalized a trade with the Phillies, and we traded him for cash considerations. Tough to see him go. It was, wasn't up terribly long, but made an impact when he was in the lineup for the most part. Hate to see a guy go just because of other extenuating circumstances, but that was necessary. And then the same day they called up, Justin Henry Malloy. On the fourth, they had originally had optioned Englert down and activated Shelby Miller just to recall Englert the next day for Alex Faedo, who's I believe got a hip problem on the 15-day IL. Tough to see one of the two. Him and Holton have been the long relief back end guys for the last bit. So tough to see him go on the IL, but he'll be back and ready to go. And then a more of a side note on the 6th, so 3 days ago, they signed a free agent right-hand relief pitcher, Riley Valentine, to a minor league contract. They have not necessarily they haven't assigned him to what team yet, so that's TBD at this case. But I know we have some other guys that are kind of day to day right now, mostly some pitchers, and obviously from yesterday the collision with Badu and Colt Keith in the field. Neither of them started today, but you know, I don't know. Just looking at some numbers I saw earlier from Colt over the last week, maybe an extra couple, 2-3 days off may do him better, as he was only hitting .056 in the last 7 days with an OPS of .111. So
Whoa.
yeah, but that's it in terms of injuries and transactions or roster moves.
All right, and let's get right into this minor league stuff. There's actually a decent amount to talk about here. One of my favorite parts of the show. But the shortstop, I think his name is Andrew Navigato. That was a guy that's kind of been on my radar the last couple of weeks, and it turned out that he was actually Player of the Week last week. So definitely getting some acknowledgement. He's a shortstop prospect at the AAA level. Meadows hit 2 home runs on Wednesday. He's continuing to hit for some good power. It's a day by day thing for him. I don't think he's the hottest team at the AAA level, but that AAA roster is pretty stacked right now.
It is stacked. It absolutely is stacked.
Yeah.
You're 100% right.
So yeah, a lot of protection for everybody down there. Dingler continues to apply pressure. He's hitting over 300. Hit a home run today. We may discuss him a little bit later on. Ty Madden had a bounce back and had a pretty decent start. He only went 3 innings. Had 3 hits, 1 earned run, and 8 Ks. The only concern I have is that the amount of pitches that it took for him to get through all that, which is, albeit only 3 innings. So there's question. I think there's question of whether or not he'll have the longevity to ultimately be a starter when he eventually gets called up. But he definitely has some stuff that misses bats. Getting 8 strikeouts in just 3 innings is pretty impressive. Max Clark hit a home run today after he kind of went on a little bit of a skid, but he went 3 for 4 today. And it was either him or McGonigal that ended up getting a hit in walk-off fashion. McGonigal has continued his consistent track that he's been on as of late. But what everybody wanted to know is how Torque was going to react to being sent down to AAA, and he's actually played pretty well. I think he's hitting over 400 right now. Well,
he's got a lot of extra base hit power down there.
Yes,
from what I've seen, yeah, doubles, homers, yeah.
Yep, he hit his first home run not of the year, but in AAA. Took him a couple of days to get it. He did have a 0 for 5 game this week, but overall he's hitting pretty well, and it's encouraging to see. It's funny because you kind of see people that are kind of like, there's a lot of scrutiny behind it. It's like we all know that he can hit lower 90s fastballs, but what is he going to do when he comes back up and they're throwing gas at him? So there's been a lot of speculation of like, okay, he's getting. We all know that he can, hit the occasional breaking ball out. We all know that he can hit an 88 mile an hour. They're acting like AAA pitchers are like little leaguers. I don't know, but we definitely going to need to see more of that. In order for us to consider him possibly coming back up. Other than that, Jung continues to hit well. He had a 432-foot home run this week. And somebody that we haven't spoke about, I don't really look into the AA Erie team, but there's a guy named Hyu Lee, who was the one of the prospects that we got from the Cincinnati Reds for Michael Lorenzen, and he's having a pretty good season so far. He's got 10 home runs, 37 RBIs, and he's hitting 275. And yeah, he's a guy that people have definitely kept their eyes on because we gave up our all-star pitcher from last year. So good to see him having a good year and hitting for power. I don't know if people expected him to hit for such power, but he's got 10 home runs already this year.
He's
so.
crushing the ball. I've seen a
Yes,
few of it on X or Twitter, formerly Twitter.
Yeah.
Some is the one hit the other night, 433. Like
Yeah, that's
that's major league number, like distance carry. So
yeah. And not the biggest guy, only 5'10",
no.
190 pounds, and he's only 21 years old. So, and another middle infielder.
Love it.
Yeah. But that pretty much wraps everything down on the farm. Let's get to a break here. All right, we are back, and we're gonna get to. We're just gonna just have some free, some thoughts. So obviously, the Tigers are very much within the race. I think we're only a couple games out of the last wild card position, and we are now into June. So we're getting to a point to where the grumblings of how where are we at? Are we a buyer? Are we a seller? Are we really trying to make some moves? And is it feasible? Does it make sense to make some moves to work towards imagine that getting in the playoffs? So so one of the names, well, there's actually two names that I keep seeing that are cycling around as far as potential trade, guys on the trading block. And it's been Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette. I've heard that they could be looking to move one or the other, or possibly both, for the right amount. Obviously, they feel like they're in a position where they can't pay them both. I mean, these are both guys that have had all-star years, and
well, they also DFA'd Biggio's kid earlier
yes.
this week. So you're talking about three legacy players, sons, who had been on this team for I don't think 2 full years with Biggio, but at least 18 months, if not 2 years. That's kind of wild. I honestly, AL East, hate the Yankees, more so Red Sox for the last 10, 15 years because they've been winning, obviously,
Right.
especially against our Tigers. Joaquin Benoit, and that home run haunts me to this day. But yeah, that's still wild to think, though. Those are all both those guys potentially could be on the block.
Absolutely. And I'm going to try to get this graphic up here for our viewers on YouTube. We're currently blocked here, but let's see if we can. No.
Just the gist of it's there.
Oh my God. I always.
It's all right. Go ahead and read it out.
I'm going to read it out because obviously we got a lot of viewers at home. I mean, audio wise. So in this particular deal, the Tigers would get Bo Bichette. The Blue Jays would receive Kevin McGonigal, who we talk about every week. Definitely a high, definitely a guy that's got been getting a lot of talks as of late. We got Alex Lang, who's somebody that was obviously a high leverage pitcher for us last year, who I almost forgot got sent down.
It's just a gluttony of relievers, but he's still I feel like he's still got like at least a handful of quality years left. He's not a bad pitcher. It's just a situation, circumstance where we got a gluttony of guys that can do a lot of the same stuff, but I think he's still valuable to their team in need.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean, his strikeout stuff is just ridiculous. I mean, I think that other teams would salivate at a guy that's that overpowering with the stuff he has. But yeah. And then the last player is Kiter Montero, who we obviously got a chance to look at last week.
Yeah, this past at least 8-9 days.
It
Yeah,
was a
he
double.
had
It was
spots
one of the
there. Yeah,
doubleheader games.
Pittsburgh, right?
Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he
yeah.
went against Skeens actually, but
Yes, he
um,
did.
so yeah, with the idea of getting a guy like Bo Bichette, who's always been a plus WAR player, he plays shortstop. So obviously we would upgrade in every area as far as that's concerned at short. And this is a guy that's got MVP votes and has been to I think 2 All-Star games, and the Tigers would have a year and a half of control before he hit the open market. So with that said, taking all things considered, what do you think about a trade like that? I think he's only 26 as well, which is also something that you got to take into account.
Honestly, I like it. I mean, because well, I would say this year and a half control. I would probably if I'm Scott Harris, I'm making that call. I'm thinking like, look, okay, I need to talk to Bo and be like, oh, what's the chances of an extension, even if it's just like a 2-3 year extension to provide some stability, if you will.
Right.
But I mean, if he's just looking to eat up the rest of his current contract with those three guys, I, I don't know. I think it might be worth more than just the year and a half rental, if you will, on his current contract. But it's worth the conversation and have. I mean, hell, we gave Maeda for what 12 or 14 million a year for 2 years. So if, versus a guy who plays pretty much almost every day in the field and in the lineup, if you give
Exactly.
him the same deal, I'd be completely fine with that.
Well, the
Even
same
if,
deal, but I think he's going to want
yeah,
way more money than that.
well, yeah, I'm putting apples to apples in that regard in terms of what we spent against what that number. But yeah, if it's within reason, sure. But I mean, I don't know if he's gonna get a fat extension from someone else in terms of some crazy number because he's shown some flashes of what he could be, and unfortunately he's struggled a bit. That's not an easy division, obviously, AL East, with Baltimore being as loaded as they are. The Yankees are just running away with the AL right now. Soto potentially MVP candidate too, which is nuts. But you know, I would be intrigued to at least for Harris to have that conversation. I think he needs gonna have to pick up the phone over the next 2 months or so, have some brutally honest discussions, uh, and see where everyone else is at in the market. But if we could get him for a couple more years after the original contract, I really don't see how that's a lose lose for us in that regard in that trade simulator.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what the potential of what our we give us. We every week we have a flash of just what our offense could really be like, and just like, and if you just think about what the potential would be if we didn't average under 4 runs a game or whatever it is, and with the pitching that we've been getting, it's intriguing. It's intriguing to think about, and the fact that we haven't been in the race this late in the year in a very long time. And so when you bring a guy in that, like someone said on the radio, Bo Bichette is already probably your best player outside of overall. Like he's only one. He's had an off year. He's had
Non-pitcher, yes, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yes, of course. Non-pitcher.
yeah.
But yeah, he had an off year, or he's having an off year. But he's only a year removed from 90, 20 plus home runs, 90 plus RBIs, and I think the year before that he had 100 plus RBIs. So you're not
Hmm.
far removed from a guy that was all-star caliber. And when you think about what he brings to the table on both sides of the field, it's we still know that when we get 5 or more runs, we're like 22-5 or something ridiculous like that. And then as far as who we would be giving up, I don't think anybody would be up in arms about Lang.
Yep.
Kyler Montero has been in the system a while. He got
He's in a log jam of starters. I mean,
yeah,
hell, Manning's been called up 2 or 3 times before he has. So yeah,
right.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So the one thing that would bug me is giving up Kevin McGonigal, but it's a
Yeah.
necessary evil that you deal with when you're trying to make win now moves. I think that you would like to see
I wouldn't even say that would be a win now move. That would be more of like a move to potentially stabilize your near future.
Yeah.
Honestly.
No, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
because like I said, he's young, so it's not like we're
Right.
getting it's a rental and he's 38 years old. He's
Right.
26, and I feel like we have the opportunity.
Right.
Right. And we have the ability to extend him long term. So
Yeah.
yeah, that would be the only tough pill to swallow, in my opinion, is parting with McConaughey and in the hopes of seeing him go through the system with Max Clark. But when the opportunity strikes, sometimes you gotta bite the bullet and make things happen. So
I
right.
agree. I mean, I think that I would, if I was Scott Harris in that situation and that came up, I'm pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
Because two, he's also a name who, if you're a baseball fan in general, you're not under the age of 25, 27 years old, you know who Bichette's dad is. So it's a lot of these legacy players that come in, they're not getting free rides. I can tell you that much right now. These guys bust their butt the way up the way everyone else does. Sure, they might have other resources available to them to make them better earlier potentially, but at the same time they still have to produce just like everybody else. But
Right.
yeah, if this came across Scott Harris's desk and I was Scott Harris, what you presented, I'm pulling the trigger.
And that might be generous. Do you feel like that would be if it does the Toronto hang up in our faces if this is the offer that the Tigers present to them? What do you think?
They're getting a few different pieces in different positions. I think it's a good spread for them, and
Right. Sure.
I don't know if they're going to resign all of them, but I mean, Lang's an MLB now guy.
Yeah, he is.
Kreider could potentially,
No, McConaughey.
simmer down for another year or two. Same with McConnell. I mean, it would give him a couple pieces in the minor league system and a guy like Lang who could help them now if they needed it.
Right.
So I think it's a good blend. Yeah, Bichette's young, but at the same time, too, I really don't see with the more recent struggles of him getting a massive extension from anywhere. I mean, sure, there might be a team that might be willing to overpay, but
Yeah.
that comes at the point of him being a free agent and able to sign with anyone versus a sign and trade.
Right. All right, we're gonna get to our last break, and then we got just a extended segment on just a couple players and what their trade value might be. But let's get to it.
Bye.
All right. So I enjoy the trade talk. It's exciting that we can be in a position to make some moves to make ourselves a stronger team so that we can contend into the fall season. But I wanted to just throw out a couple names, and you tell me if on a scale of 1 through 10, 10 being high value, where these guys, I don't know. This isn't really that. Well, for one, I'm gonna ask you, do you feel like there's a chance that the Tigers could possibly move them? That's the first question. And then
Okay.
two, what their value is on a scale of 1 to 10,
Okay.
to another team, and obviously it would depend on who the team is. But I'm gonna start with Mark Canna. Do you see the Tigers possibly considering moving him? And two, what would you feel like their value is 1 out of 10?
One, no, I don't see them moving him.
Okay.
Two,
Why?
his value be probably a little bit lower than we would expect because it was funny. I was gonna make the comment about Malloy taking a bunch of walks in this week in this call up because I was about to joke and say, "Hey, he's been watching Mark Canna bat a bit. That's why." But you can't have two power guys taking walks in the middle of the lineup like that. It's. I understand it's great. It's fine. But at the end of the day, your 3, 4, 5 hitters should be driving in runs, not walking in runs. Mark Canna right now would be a lukewarm or moderate trade piece. Team that might be looking to plug in one extra position for depth, maybe some DH help, but I really don't think you're gonna get much back in a return of investment from Canna as it is right now. If he was batting 300, 310, maybe you could get
Right.
a bit more, but he's hitting what about 250 to 265 average before you count OPS. So yeah, no, not too much from him right now.
Okay. What about Gio Urshela?
I feel like he'd be if he were to get traded, it'd be a top 5, 6 team playoff team on either league that's looking to add some depth. Might not start him all the time,
Right.
but again, flexible, can play multiple positions. Uh, Obviously been in the league for a while, smart hitter, knows a lot of the pitchers. Um, I would give him a moderate, maybe. All right, let me go backtrack here. Mark Canna, I give about a 3 to 4 trade
Okay.
value, like potentially to be traded. Uh, I'd give him about maybe about a 6, maybe 6. You might get some cash considerations, maybe a AA player back, if not. But yeah, a little bit more valuable than Mark Canna right now.
All right. And this last one, he's actually not I don't think personally, I don't think he has much trade value per se. But um with Rogers seeming to get things together a little bit hitting wise, and obviously he's already a pretty good defensive catcher, an amazing framer of pitches, and a pretty good arm. Do you see them keeping Carson Kelly for the entire year? Um, Especially with a guy like Dylan Dingler hitting so well and kind of in a position to where he's been in the he was drafted out of college. He's a little bit older and he's kind of coming into his own
Hmm.
and continuing to rise, through the system. He was in Double A
Yeah.
last year. I think he got to Triple A at the end of last year. So do you see Carson Kelly making it through the entire year, and or just Carson or Dylan Dingler putting them in a position to where they kind of have to make a decision in that regard?
Yeah, Carson Kelly has been putting up some decent, respectable numbers. I'm not going to sit here and say great numbers or anything by the sort because it hasn't been great, but
Yeah.
he's been productive. He's been contributive. Sure as hell a bit more. Yeah, you know, it's the catching situation with this team has been unique because honestly, before the season started, yours truly thought Carson was a few years or more younger than Jake Rogers, but in reality,
Younger.
they're damn near within a year apart of each other in terms of age. Um,
He's 20. Carson Kelly's 29. Is Rogers is
he's got to be 30. They're
nah,
within 18 months,
he
maybe
just
2 years max.
looks older because of that must. Oh, he's
Right,
29. They're the
but they're
same
pretty
age.
close. That's what
They're
I'm
the
saying.
same
They're
age.
within 12 months. I said
I don't
12
know why I
months.
thought Jake
Yeah.
was was
but
younger.
but the breakout games that Jake has don't sustain Carson's average over the year in terms of hitting. Now, I think with both of those, if Dan Dingler gets called up for the September call ups, we'll just say for right now,
Yeah.
I mean it's gonna have to be a result of Jake being cut because Carson's gonna stay.
Why do you feel
Carson
that?
Carson has done more at the dish
Hmm?
as a hitter, pure hitter, not so much like
In his
driving in
career,
runs,
or
RBIs. No, I'm saying it's great. I'm just saying this year. If we're basing off this year alone, Carson has been better over the year consistently than Jake has been in spots. Now, when I say that, Javi Baez has been great in spurts, mini spurts. Arizona, what he had 8 RBIs, and it was a third of his RBI total in 2 games in that weekend series. That you can compartmentalize or compact for Jake. He's great in 2-3 games in 10 days, and then you won't hear him again for a week.
that's true.
Carson's fairly consistent from an offensive standpoint, and I am talking purely offensive at this point. I know Jake calls a good game. He's a good game manager, and I love that as a former catcher myself. You know, I love that. But you have 2 guys that are almost identical players to a degree. So if you want to bring up Dan Dingler, someone's got to go. You can't have 3 catchers on the roster.
But you think Rogers before Kelly? Because I wanna
Yes.
go through the
No, Kelly
number.
before Rogers.
Kelly stays
If
before
if
Rogers.
if one is getting cut because of Dan getting called up, it's Jake Rogers being cut.
Mm,
My opinion. My
okay,
opinion.
I think maybe I'm just biased to the fact that Rogers has been in the system since he was traded for Verlander, whenever that was. I just feel like he has more. Um,
I'll say this: it's not a big gap. It's a very 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 marginal gap between the two. But whereas Jake has produced in bunches and smaller quantities of
3 home
games,
runs this week, for what it's worth,
right?
and
But
26 last year or whatever it was. But
Carson's also been able to hit fairly better consistently over time and been a pretty good, or I shouldn't say pretty good. He's been a respectable throwout guy in terms of caught stealing on the base paths.
yeah, I think defensively they're about even.
Hmm.
But just to throw it out there, Jake Rogers this year hitting 233, 5 home runs, and 11 RBIs. So mostly just a solo homer guy, but 233,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, his one today was a 3-run bomb, wasn't it?
Oh, you know what it was, but
It was.
it just seems like 11 home runs is a minuscule amount for a guy that's got 5 home runs. Maybe, I don't know. For me,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think.
No, you're right. Then
Um,
again, I feel like a lot of these guys for our club hitting home runs have been solo shots.
no, for
So
sure, for sure. I mean, Riley
that
Green's
goes
got
for
like 12.
everyone.
You
Right.
know. Okay, and so okay, all right, fair. Okay, so
Yeah.
Carson Kelly hitting 236, so 4 ticks higher, 2 home runs, 14 RBIs, which is 3 more than Rogers, with a 653 OPS. I can't remember what Rogers' OPS was.
Yeah.
So Rogers has more home runs, less RBIs,
Hmm.
and Carson Kelly's got a higher average. So I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
We're
so
splitting some hairs for sure.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's close, but it just
Yeah.
makes you wonder. Certainly next year something's got to shake as far as Dingler. That sounds crazy,
Right.
Yeah,
Let
there's
me.
decisions to be made. Both Kelly and Rogers will both be going into entering their 30s. But you probably don't want to put Dingler out there as a trade candidate because
No.
you need there's no
Yeah.
catchers of the future beyond Dylan
Yep.
Dingler. So
Let
just
me put this to you now. I know we've been on for a hot second, but quickly here. with Torkelson's demotion prior to the September call-ups, do we think? I'm going to ask you. Do you believe we will see Torkelson up again before the September call-up?
If he continues at the pace he's at, let me see where he's at right now. But I think that if he continues at the pace he's at for the next 2 to 3 weeks, I think you got to give him one. You got to give him one more shot at it. He's hitting 333.
Again,
Yeah,
small numbers to our audience, small numbers, sample
yeah,
size.
small sample size. He's got a home run, 4 RBIs. Yeah, I think that if he has another couple of weeks like that, I can see. I
Couple
can.
weeks, just a couple weeks. You think?
I don't. I mean,
Bro, I think it's gonna be 2 months. 2 months. He's gonna
you
throw
think that he's
something.
on? You did say when he first went down that he was on a long track as far as coming back up here. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you look at how long Parker Meadows has been down there, which has been like what, a month and a half.
You led right into it. I was about to ask
Yeah,
too briefly too. Like, well, between the two, then if Parker's been down there a hell of a lot longer, and Torque is on a 1-year proven deal for 6 figures, which one of the two do you believe
is
is going to
Torque
come?
still? Yeah, I guess he's still making. He's in 1-1. He's a 1-1, and he's making only 6 figures. You think?
He is making about 700 plus thousand this year.
Oh
That's what
wow.
they signed him to this year. Yeah, he knew
Yeah,
it. But
that's why it's so easy for
push come
people
to
to.
shove, right now, as of today, who gets called up back first, him or Parker?
I think Parker comes back first. So in a
I
sense,
agree.
so when I say 2 more weeks of it,
Yeah.
that's not enough.
No, I
Yeah,
agree.
it should be Parker Meadows, and um, yeah, and I think that uh, it could be contingent on if Malloy gets, if Malloy is able to be more consistent with it, because um, I guess it doesn't really make sense to keep him up while Meadows has, put in his work.
Well,
In
they're
the,
also two different outfielders. Parker's
they
in.
are, but
Yeah.
you see how
Yeah.
we can maneuver things. Vierling played center field, Vierling,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so things can be moved around, and
True. True.
um,
Now let me throw
and
this
we
at
now
you.
have a open DH spot that's not strictly, set aside for Miggy. So we
I
have a
mean, it's
lot.
basically Mark Cannon at this point.
Canna plays first. Canna play first today,
Yes, he can. Yes. No, it's a good point. You mentioned that out.
and corner outfield.
Him, Mark, and I think they had someone else on the 25 man roster who have had some first base experience.
Gio
Gio,
plays
I think.
first. Yeah,
No, Gio did Friday. Gio played first on Friday.
yeah.
Very first game. Yeah.
and
No,
and
so
they
he got some
and they
excellent
both
play.
look good. I have no
Yeah.
gripes with how they performed at first base, which has made the Torkelson transition a lot easier. So yeah, that's the beauty of the way they did make the rosters, that you got a lot of guys that can play all over the field, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
really have those issues of, where, oh, he's a just a third baseman, so what are we gonna do? Like, we got a lot of guys that play a
Yeah,
variety of
multiple
positions.
infield, outfield. Yeah, there's a lot of. This team has a ton of flexibility,
Yeah.
especially when it comes defensively in the field. Absolutely. Let me throw this at you though. It's gonna
Mm-hmm.
be a spicy one,
Uh-oh.
extra spicy, especially to our listeners here. If Illich does not commit to spending more money prior to the trade deadline, and I asked a few different coaches this weekend at my tournament this weekend in Farmington. If they do not want to spend the money, and let's just say that as status quo, let's just say Illich tells Harris, I ain't spending more than that. Is Tarek Skubal a trade candidate? And how much do you think potentially between MLB ready now players, prospects, and picks do you think we could get back for him?
Well,
At its peak. At its peak.
The thing you hate, well, you don't want to be put in a situation to where you lose him for nothing.
Well, yeah.
That would be criminal with how good he is. But at the the same
Thankfully, that's not the scenario.
right. On the same token, these prospects are not guaranteed guy. I mean, you're this, there's no such thing as an undeniable, undisputed, sure minor leaguer. So, and that's obviously from the
Hmm.
Verlander trade, who like I always mention, Jake Rogers is the only last remaining member from that trade at this point. So,
Hmm.
it's almost not even like you don't even feel content. You don't feel any level of content, even if you do get some of their best prospects. But I just hope that we don't get faced with a situation like that. Um, but as far as how many prospects, I mean, at least 4 or 5 guys. He's
Well,
like
it'd be a combo between prospects,
in ready in
MLB ready
right,
now
right,
guys that are either have been or are ready to take on an everyday role,
right,
or we could even go a little bit further and go, maybe some veterans who maybe have a couple years left or so based on contracts. I know it's a bigger hypothetical, but it was just something I wanted to throw out there because I think a lot of us as Tiger fans, we've seen this team spend money on two different occasions over the last 25 years.
right.
More recently being 2010, 11 up until about 2014 or 15, maybe 16. And obviously we saw, the fire sale that was from the previous run of teams. And then obviously going back to our heyday and high school, early college years in the 2000s, where they had about a 3-year run or so. But we look back on it too. Stephen Moya, the outfielder we drafted, was what 6'6", 6'7" outfielder. 4 years didn't do shit and was gone. Pardon my French, but
Right.
you know, other
But
than
that's what it is though. Yeah.
it is. And Tiger fans, those of you on YouTube right now, go ahead and drop it in the comments. Those of you listening online, other platforms, you feel it. You feel it in the bones with us. In the last 25 years or so, the only non-position player that we have actually produced as a draftee has been Justin Verlander.
Right.
And to it, and even going back to the end of our Tiger Stadium days, I hate to say it, but Matt Anderson would have been one of those guys, and obviously he had a freak accident outside pregame one day, throwing God knows what. Not going to speculate. I heard some rumors, but then you know tears his shoulder or arm and never pitches again. Guy who threw 101, 102 as a lefty. 101, 102 as a lefty. That's
No, Matt
insane.
Anderson.
Matt Anderson was a
He's
lefty.
right-handed.
No, what?
Yeah.
Mm. well, we've seen
Right.
what happens when you play Guitar Hero, Joel Zamaya. No.
Yeah, he's right-handed. I'm like, there's no way he was throwing
I heard
left-handed.
that was. Yeah. Well, either way, we
Yeah.
other than non-position players, it's been a terrible pass for us. So yeah, if push came to shove and we started falling off the wild card wagon, I think that's something that the team, the organization, is not the team, organization needs to consider.
Yeah.
If we're gonna pay this guy or pay everyone else, or no. If the answer is no, we need to get an absolute haul back for him.
Right. And my parting words on it, we all know who his agent is and the fact that he's going to want to hit the market and get the highest bid that exists. So we have that to consider. Also the fact that as he's been a consistent, constant person that we know that we know we're getting from him nearly every time he goes out there. He is a guy that only pitches, only going to play for you once every 5 days. And as of right now, he's the only guy getting run support at this point. So with as
Literally.
with how just one thing that we're not concerned about is whether or not our coaching can develop more quality pitchers. So if we were able to,
Pause. I got to pause on that. Mm.
as of late,
Flaherty's a free agent pitcher. Scooble has had the talent. I will give him credit for Reese Olson.
what about Tyler Holden? What about Alex Lang? Foley? Lorenzen has resurged his career. Eduardo Rodriguez had a great year last year. These are
Erod
guys.
up and disappeared last year, bro. I'm sorry.
He had a good year though. He went 13. He went 13 and
3 months without being seen. Erod.
right, but when he came back, he was on point. That's more of an Erod thing. Yeah, he went 13-9 last year.
I should clarify. It's been more of the younger guys that I've been frustrated with, and it's not even just pitching. And I know we've talked offline about it, but it's everything. It's the fielding, it's the hitting. In my opinion, the staff under AJ Hinch underperformed. Terrible. My opinion.
I would not attest that to the pitching coaches though.
To a degree, I would agree. Yes. Yeah.
So basically, my point was that if we could get a haul that consisted of a few bats, a few young pitchers to kind of patch up the void of a Cy Young candidate ace.
Yeah.
There is a world to where it could make some sense, knowing that there's a chance that Scooble, who is like 29 and has had injury. I don't know if he's 29, but a guy that has had some injuries in the past. There's a world to where it could make some sense. I just don't want to be faced with that, especially knowing that it's not a move that on paper is going to look good today. It's going to maybe look good down the line, but we would just have to wait to see on that. So I'm just gonna ride the wave and enjoy it for what we have now, and hopefully we can just keep continuing the win to where we can kind of kick that can down the road and not worry about that right now. But it's something that it's an issue that we may have to face down the road. But yeah, we are close to hitting that 1 hour mode. With the trade talks are always spicy and interesting, especially when you start talking about one of the
27, by the way.
27. Okay, yeah, I knew he was in his later. When does he turn? Does he turn 28 this year?
November.
Okay, this year.
28. Right. Yeah.
So he's getting up there, and that arm. We know how those arms. We know how the arms work.
Tommy Juan.
Yeah. So yeah. We know how the trade talks go. They get very interesting, and we could go on all day. Eventually, the closer we get to the deadline, we'll probably just have trade shows. But any closing remarks before we wrap things up and look on to next week?
It's pretty. I'm just go ahead and say it. I don't care for AJ Hinch. I don't care for his positional coaches. His staff is supposed to produce, progress, and improve players. And so far, all the young players that we've seen outside of Wensel Perez, who had a great first 3-week stretch, and then over the last month or so has been 50, 60 points less in terms of batting average. I am feeling underwhelmed. This team possibly could be doing better, but according to MLB's Savant Statcast, their projected and to expected win to loss, they're at that number. Where they're at right now is where they expect them to be. But at the same time, we expect, improvement and progression. And I'm sorry, but I don't see it. I don't see the improvement.
You don't see the
Um,
improvement? That's not where this is not where we were last year. I want you to know that.
60 games in, we were the exact same record.
Really?
So there's no improvement. I mean, from a win-loss standpoint, zero improvement, no change. But it's not a regression either. But at the same time, we're still talking about errors and shit from the same players all the time, and it's impactful because those errors are leading directly to runs, and I still think there's a mismanagement of starters. Reese Olson should not have gone as long as he did on Friday. I'm sorry. I'm going to put that out there right now. They had an off day the day before. What the hell was AJ Inch thinking? Leaving the guy out there for threw 70 plus pitches in 3 innings. Why running him out there for the fourth inning to get absolutely totally annihilated? Gave up 11 hits, 7 runs, and 90 some pitches. You had a full bull. Yeah, I understand Faedo was put to the IL, but at the same time, you had options. Everyone in that bullpen was available to you, and you let your guy who arguably could be up there in terms of a Cy Young general conversation, wins and losses aside, because he has the whip, he's got the Caper 9, he's got everything else in terms of metrics needed to be a qualifiable candidate, and he left him out there. And I don't want to say he left him out there to dry because I think he wanted him to try and eat some more outs and eat some innings. But at the same time, this dude has busted his butt off for this team, and he's got nothing in support. So to leave him out there and
That's
just get
true.
absolutely shelled like
That's
that,
true. He doesn't get run
that's
support
I'm
anymore.
sorry, but that's terrible. That's absolutely a mismanagement of AJ Hinch, and I I have my confidence in him and his staff are dwindling next to nothing, and that's where I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, you have there. You have it. Gave you something to stew on until the next week. But yeah, that is this week in Corner to Copa. Please tune in.
Schedule
Um, yeah, we can. Yeah, you do you have it up? We
right
can
now.
knock that out real good.
Yeah,
I don't want to go too far over
that's
the
all right.
hour
Yeah,
mark.
we got a little bit. Yeah. All right, schedule briefly, real quick, coming up. They got an off day on Monday. They host the Washington Nationals for 3 games, Tuesday through Thursday. That order, as it is right now, will be Maeda, Olson, and Mize. And then they carry over to a 6 game road trip with no days off. Friday through Sunday, they're back in Houston with Flaherty, Scoville, and Maeda. And then they turn around and fly from Texas to Atlanta for the Braves, and that'll be Olson, Mize, and Flaherty as it is right now.
All right, and Mr. Mize, please get it together. Oh my God! But that we'll leave that for another rant. Corner to
And to
Copa.
those of you next weekend, happy Father's Day. We will get back to you after that day is. So all you dads out there, happy Father's Day.
Absolutely. Please subscribe to Bleachers to Speakers for all the visual content on Corner to Copa, and we are of course on all streaming platforms under that name as well, Corner to Copa. So please comment, leave a nice rating for us, and subscribe because we're bringing you shows at least a couple times a week, counting our roster updates. And we're bringing you the best show in Mishnah.
Best Tiger show, maybe.
Right. But all right, coach, let's get up out of here.
All right. Adios, y'all.